Everyone, welcome back to another lecture on the course Python Fundamentals Building Blocks for Aspiring Developers. We will continue with the third module. We are at the 12th day of our agenda. Here we will look at nested loops and nested conditional statements. So let's begin. Nesting in programming. We will see what nesting is. So what is nesting? So nesting is when we write a code block within another code block. So we can use nested loops and nested conditional statements. In simple terms, it is just a loop within another loop. So there's a loop and in that loop there is another loop. Similar for conditional statements. There is a if statement and in that if statement, instead of performing a operation or doing something or printing the value, we are just using another if statement. We will have a look at the use cases for these two. So let's first see an example for the nested loops. So this is how a nested loop looks like. So we have two loops. The first loop is running for 5 iterations. The second loop is running for 3 iterations. We can use both of the values in the loops. So both of those in either of the loops. So we will have a look at this practically and it will be much more clear. This is how a nested conditional statement would look like. So we have one if. In the first if, instead of just printing the value, we're also doing another if statement. So it will first go, if the first if statement is correct, it also checks the other one. If this is not correct, it just moves on to this one and does not check this. So this is another example of nesting in loops. Like we can use nesting of loops and a statement, both of them. So we're using two loops and in the second loop we are using a if statement. We can also have a nested if in this one too. So we will have a look at some examples and try coding. So let's open up our Visual Studio Code. I'll just remove the previous code in the same file and let me just see if I can clear this one. Yeah. So let's say I have a loop for I in range 5. So I say print I. Let's first have a look at this one. What does it say? It says okay, prints values from 0 to 4 because I runs for 5 times 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if I have another loop, let's say for j in range 3, do this and print j. If I do this, so I have this is for the first loop, this is for the second loop. Now what I want to do is that I want to move this loop within this one. So I say do this, do this, do this, and do this, like this. So now this is one loop. Oops. So this is one loop. For each iteration, it will run this loop 3 times. We can also have a visualization of this one. So let's say I have first loop. So in the first loop, let's say I'm going from values 1. This is the first loop, second, third. So let's say I'm running 1, 2, 3. 3 iterations range is 3. And for the second loop, the range is also 3. So in the first iteration, I'm printing value of I. In the first one it is 0. And the second one it is 1. And the third one it is 2. It will not go on like this. So what it will do is that, let's try and see how it will. Oops. Do this, this and this. So how a loop will go. This is the first for loop and this is a second nested for loop. So in the first one it starts from 0, then it starts executing this loop. So 0 and then it will start this and let's say we are going to print these values as well. So it will say 0 and then it will run this loop. So this loop runs for 3 times. It will print 0, 1, 2. This 0 is for this loop and these values are for this loop. So now once both of them has have been completed. It exits of this loop. It exits here. We have nothing to do. It will not exit in this direction. In fact, it will exit in this direction. So it goes here. There is nothing. Goes back here. We again print the value. Now it is 1. Now again the loop runs for 3 times. We get the value 0, 1, 2. Again the loop exits here. Now nothing is here. Goes back. Prints 2. Now again runs the loop. We get 0, 1 and 2. Now it exits. Now it has run 3 times. So it will exit from this loop 2 and carry on. So this is how it looks like. So if I go over here, I do this and I run this. So what it does is that 0, this is 0. So let me write this for better understanding. Outer loop and I, and let's say inner loop and j. I do this. So first it executes for the outer loop, this one, then it will run this loop 3 times. Inner loop, inner loop, inner loop. Now it has been completed. It goes over here, then again goes to the next one. Outer loop prints 1, then it has to run this loop 3 times. So 1, 2, 3 and so on. It also runs in the same order. If I put it after this one over here, let's say like this. So first it will not print this value. First it will run this loop like this. There is no code over here. It goes here. There is nothing to do. It goes on this list. So inner, 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 3 values of the inner loop, then exits this loop. Then there is this code remaining for the outer loop, prints this, and then again the second iteration. There's nothing over here, goes into the loop, inner loop, inner loop, inner loop, exits it, this one, outer loop, moves on to the next iteration and so on. So let's just put it back over here for the moment. So this is how it looks. We can also perform an operation. So what I want to do is that I want to print the sum of both of them. So I say I plus j. So let me also do print outer, oops, this is the inner one, inner loop, and then I say j. Okay, run the code. So for the outer loop we have a value of 0, 0, that's fine. Now for the inner loop we have a value of 0. Now I is 0 and j is 0, so print 0. Now for the inner loop the value is 1, for j the value is 1, but for I the value is still 0 because it is not going on to the next iteration. It is still in the first iteration for this one, but it is only changing for this one. So now j becomes 1, so sum is 1. Then now j becomes 2, this is still 0, sum is 2. Now it has completed 3 iterations, move on to the next one. Now the outer loop has a value of 1, so this I has a value of 1 for all 3 iterations of this inner loop. So now what we get, if it is 0 we get 1, if it is 1 we get 1 plus 1, that is 2. In the second iteration we get 1 plus 2, that is 3. 3 iterations completed, move on. Now this becomes 2. Now this is again 0 in the first iteration j, so it becomes 2, that is 2 plus 0, then 2 plus 1, then 2 plus 2. So we have for 4 and instead 2 plus 2. So in the so the outer loop we have this 4 now. So go on, print that, and so on, it will execute this one. So we can use this also with the lists. This is just a use case. For example, you want to perform an operation for both of them. This is one thing you can do. Not this operation, I mean you would not usually do an addition of these two, but still this is mostly using list of lists. So how a list of list look like, let's say we have a list. So instead of these elements I say first item of the list is also a list, second item is also a list, third item is also a list, So this is the first item of the outer list, this is the second item, this is the third item. Now I want to do a square of each of these values. Now if I'm just using this outer loop, let's say this, I say for let's say L, for loop, for let's say, yeah, loop, for loop because, oh sorry, for list, for list in my list. So first element is a list, so this is why I'm saying it list. I'm not writing list because that is a keyword in Python. I'm just using lst. You can name it anything, but again it is better to have this descriptive. So now if I do print and I do list, now the first item here is this one, so it should print a list for each of the iterations, this, this and this. Now this item here is a list. I can also iterate over this list. So how I would do that? For item in which list? In this list, which is this one. So I can use this here, lst, to this, and I say print item like this. So in the first list, this is list, and in this list we are again iterating over this list. So that is this one, it says 1 and 2. So you see, we can get rid of this one or not. Let's just keep it here for now. So instead of just printing it, what I want to do is I want to print the square of the value. So I say item square, run the code. So now for each of these ones, prints a square 1 and 4. Now for 2 and 3, the squares are 4 and 9, and similarly 9 and 16 for this list. So this is how we use nested for loops to iterate over this list of lists, or you can say nested lists, but that's not a good terminology. So it's better just to say list of lists. So you see, this is the use case of using nested for loops. So I will keep this here for now like this. Just comment everything out and let's just have a quick look at the nested if condition. So I say if x is greater than 5, I say this, and I say if else print x is less than 5, and we say print x is greater than 5. So for this one, what I'm checking is if x is greater than 5. So for this one, what it should print? It should print x is greater than 5. This if condition is working. Now I also want to check if x is less than 10. So I say if x is less than 10, print x is also less than 10. I can also keep it like this, and I can also do it like this. I say print x is not less than 10. So instead of here, I will just change it to 9, just so this condition executes. So go over here, it says x is greater than 5. It checks this condition. Yes, this is true. Move into this code block. So it says x is greater than 5. Yes, now there's another if condition. X is less than 10. Yes, print this one, x is also less than 10. Now this if condition is true, it will skip this else condition. Move here. Now this if condition was true, so this else condition will also be omitted. It will not be executed. So it continues on. I could also do it like this, and x is less than 10. That is one way to getting rid of this thing. Instead of writing if here, I can do it like this, but this is just an example, a simple case, but usually it is not a simple case. You see, this is how we can use nested if-else statements. I can also do it like this. Another if statement. If x is, let's say, less than 8, print x is less than 8, else print x is greater than 8 to this, and the code. So we have three conditions. First, it checks this one. Yes, this is true. Move here. Now this condition is also true. It is less than 10. Print this one. Go over this loop. Now x is less than 8. This condition is not true. So it will not execute this if it will execute the code in this else statement. Move out. This was already true. So skip this one. Now this condition was already true. So skip this one and move on with the code. Now if x had a value of 3, what should it print? X is less than 5. Only this one. Because this condition is not true, it does not execute, it does not go in this code. This condition is not true, just skip over to the next else if or else part of the code. So it is else and so on. Here we can also have other if statements if we want. This is how it works. So let's just go back over here, do this, and do this. So what I want to do is that my question is just a use case. Do a square if the number is even, otherwise do a cube. And there is a third condition, that is, but if the number is 0, just print it as it is. So if the number is even, I want to do a square. If the number is odd, I want to do a cube. But if the number is 0, I want to print it as it is. Okay, so how would it go? So let's just add a couple of values, 0 and let's say 5. So I want to go over each item. So where I will do these even and odd checks here? No, because this is just a list at this point. I will go over here because in this one we were accessing each of the items. So here I say, now I have a condition here. So let's get rid of this print statement. So what is the first condition? If the number is even. How do we check if the number is even? We use modulus. If item modulus 2 is equals to 0, instead let's say if item equals 0, we want to do print item as it is, then elif number mod 2 is equals to 0. What I want to do? I want to do print the square of the item. Here I can also write this item modulus 2 is not equals to 0. I can also write this, or I can just write else, because the only condition remaining after these two is that the number is odd. So I can write in a statement. I can write an else statement as it is. Item cube. So let me just add some breaks in between so it is easier to read. Yeah. So why I'm doing this if item is equals to 0 at the start instead of doing if over here, because if the item is 0, it is also kind of an even number, right? It is divisible by 2, number is 0. I mean the modulus is 0 because something divided by 0 divided by number is 0. So if I do it like this, if I put this like if and I put this one over here, then this if will be executed if the value is 0. So you need to understand the concept and design this accordingly. So I run the code. Let's see what I get. So these are just okay. Let me also print something here so it is easier to read. Number is 0. Number is even. And here I say number is odd. So just so it is easier to read. So the first one is 1 and 2. This print statement. Then it goes here. So for the first one, what it should do? It should do this. Number is odd. Do a cube. 1 cube is 1. Then for the second one, number is even. It checks this condition. Okay, number is even. Print 4. For the next one, again, for the first one, it checks if this number is even or odd according to these conditions. It is even, do this step. If it is odd, do the other one. Now once we have here in this one, at this last iteration according to the outer loop, we have number is 0. This condition is true. It says number is 0. And for the 5 it says number is odd. So it does this thing. So you see, this is how we can use nested loops. Even we can use if statements within a nested loop. I could also do something like use another if statement here. I could say if item is less than 4, if item is less than 4, then I also want to add +1 to the item. So I can even do like this. So now this is also a nested kind of a situation. So number is even. Now the number is even. Then I have another if here. Is the number less than 4? Yes, the number is less than 4. So it does number +1, that is 2 plus 1. So it outputs 3. So you see, this is how we can use nested loops and nested if statements. Yeah. So that was all in this lecture. Again, keep on practicing these things, try out different scenarios, look for different questions that you can solve this way, and keep on practicing on those. So that brings an end to this lecture and to this module as well. In the next lectures, we will continue with the next module. We will start a new module. So we will meet you then in the next videos. Until then, goodbye.